Have you ever wondered why certain foods once deemed off-limits are finding their way back onto our plates, even past age 70? I used to see eggs as a guilty pleasure, something I should avoid because of all the cholesterol warnings I'd heard over the years. Then, not long after my 72nd birthday, I noticed something unsettling. My mind felt a bit hazy, I was more easily distracted, and my memory wasn't as sharp as before. It was a subtle change at first, but over time, that mental fog grew, interfering with the hobbies and social connections that make life so enjoyable. These changes can happen to any of us, and if you're over 65, you might have noticed similar shifts in your own mental clarity. The challenge is that so many of us have grown up with conflicting dietary advice. One generation says, eggs are nature's perfect food, while another warns, avoid them if you have high cholesterol. Navigating this confusion is especially hard in our senior years, when we're more conscious about heart health and have to watch everything from sodium to sugar intake. But here's the thing, I felt so strongly that something in my diet was missing that I decided to do some deeper research and experimentation under the guidance of a nutrition professional. It turned out that for me, the benefits of including whole eggs, yes with the yolk, outweighed the risks. I realized that this simple change might help support my brain and overall vitality. Why does this matter? Well, imagine waking up in the morning with a clear head, feeling sharp enough to finish the crossword puzzle without frustration, or confidently recalling names and stories when chatting with friends. Mental clarity is about so much more than just remembering where you left your keys. It's about independence, personal fulfillment, and staying connected to the world around us. And while there's no single magic bullet to transform brain health overnight, what we choose to put on our plates can absolutely tip the scales in our favor. I want to share 3 key lessons I've learned since reintroducing whole eggs into my diet. These lessons aren't about praising one food as a cure-all. Instead, they highlight how sometimes reevaluating old assumptions can open the door to renewed energy, focus, and a sense of well-being, things we all deserve no matter our age. It's possible that these lessons will shift your perspective, or at least encourage you to ask more questions the next time a doctor, friend, or family member tells you to avoid a particular food. Before we dive in, I should mention that I'm not a medical doctor, and this isn't meant to replace any advice from a qualified healthcare provider. Over the years, I've coached many older adults on holistic approaches to wellness, from nutrition and gentle exercise to stress management. In my own journey, I've noticed patterns that might resonate with you. My hope is that by sharing what I've observed in the actionable steps I've taken, you'll feel more empowered to make small, strategic changes in your own lifestyle. So if you're ready to learn how something as unassuming as an egg could contribute to better mental clarity, let's explore these ideas together. Stay with me and feel free to think about what's been working or not working in your own routine. If anything I say sparks a question, jot it down or mentally note it. This is a conversation, and your perspective is just as valuable. After all, we've all lived long enough to know that no single formula fits everyone perfectly. Sometimes the best we can do is experiment wisely and stay open to new insights. Let's get started. I used to believe that cholesterol was the ultimate villain, especially for those of us in our golden years. After all, how many times have we been told that eggs clog your arteries? One of the biggest misconceptions around eggs is that their cholesterol content alone determines their impact on heart health. In fact, many of my friends in their late 60s and 70s have gone years, if not decades, avoiding egg yolks entirely because of this fear. Let me introduce you to Liz. She's 76, lives alone, and is diligent about her checkups. Because her doctor cautioned her years ago about cholesterol, she cut out eggs altogether. Over time, she grew more fatigued, and surprisingly, her blood markers for certain nutrients dipped. While her cholesterol levels stayed somewhat managed, she didn't feel as vibrant, mentally or physically. When I reintroduced whole eggs, I did so cautiously. I started with just a few per week while monitoring how I felt and discussing any concerns with my healthcare professional. The reality is that while eggs do contain dietary cholesterol, they also provide vital nutrients such as choline, vitamin B12, and vitamin D, nutrients particularly relevant to cognitive health. Emerging research suggests dietary cholesterol and blood cholesterol aren't always the same story. For many of us, moderate egg consumption doesn't automatically equate to sky-high cholesterol levels. Of course, if you already have specific conditions like familial hypercholesterolemia or have been advised by a specialist to restrict dietary cholesterol, that's important to factor in. But for the average senior with stable cardiovascular markers, an egg or two a day might actually fit into a balanced eating pattern. If you've been wary of eggs, consider starting small. Maybe add one whole egg to a vegetable-packed omelet or stir it into oatmeal for a more substantial breakfast. Notice how you feel over the next couple of weeks. Keep track of any changes in energy, mood, or digestion. Always pair your meals with plenty of fiber from vegetables and whole grains to support heart health further. From my own experience, focusing on the entire nutritional profile rather than just one component, like cholesterol, changed the way I look at eggs and food in general. Now, the emotional benefit here is peace of mind. There's something satisfying about enjoying a whole, nutrient-rich food without the constant worry about one number on a lab test. Mentally, this shift can be quite liberating. Physically, you might find you have more stamina to get through your morning routines or even an afternoon walk with friends. And from a purely practical standpoint, eggs are affordable, easy to prepare, and can be integrated into countless recipes. It's worth mentioning that a balanced approach can be especially beneficial if you're also aiming to manage your weight. Protein from eggs can help curb mid-morning snack cravings, which might lead to more stable energy levels throughout the day. So if you've been on the fence, this is your chance to break free from old myths and consider the bigger picture of your dietary choices. When I say consider the bigger picture, I also mean staying informed about your own health markers. If possible, ask your doctor for a more detailed breakdown of your cholesterol, HDL, LDL, triglycerides, and discuss whether eggs could be a reasonable part of your meal plan. That sense of collaboration, where you bring your observations to the table along with your doctor's expertise, can be very empowering. After exploring this first lesson, I encourage you to pause and reflect. What assumptions about cholesterol or eggs have you carried all these years? Is there room to test those assumptions in a safe, incremental way? I'll share more of my personal experiences in just a moment, but I want to ask, have you ever avoided a particular food for so long that you can't even recall the exact reason? Or maybe you remember the reason, but you realize that nutritional science evolves. If that resonates with you, mentally note it. Sometimes our biggest breakthroughs happen when we realize we've been basing decisions on outdated information. Let's keep going. A common assumption is that if something is high in cholesterol, it must be terrible for the brain. Interestingly, the opposite can be true in moderation. One thing I discovered is that the yolk of the egg contains an essential nutrient called choline, which is a building block for a neurotransmitter involved in memory and muscle control. Many seniors don't consume enough choline because it's found in relatively few foods. When I cut eggs out completely, I missed out on that critical nutrient for years. Then I noticed my memory for details, especially short-term things like where I put my reading glasses, began to slip. Of course, age-related changes are normal, but I wondered if lacking key nutrients was making the situation worse. Let me introduce you to Carl, who's 68. He was worried about his mother's history of Alzheimer's and assumed that genetically, he was destined to face cognitive decline as well. In trying to follow every piece of advice he heard about brain health, Carl cut out various foods, including eggs, thinking they were risky for heart health and offered nothing special for cognition. However, he also began experiencing low energy and slight forgetfulness. When he visited a nutritional therapist, they suggested reintroducing whole eggs, along with other choline-rich foods like liver and certain beans. Over time, Carl reported feeling more alert, and he noticed fewer senior moments. He also engaged in regular mental exercises and physical activities to support overall brain function, which likely helped too. But to his surprise, the egg-based breakfast became a key part of his routine. This brings up the point that mental clarity is rarely about one single factor. It's about synergy, combining nutrient-rich foods with consistent movement, good sleep, and stress management. Nevertheless, adding even one missing puzzle piece like choline can have a noticeable effect. If you're interested in trying this, think about having an egg-based breakfast, maybe twice a week. Scramble or poach them along with vegetables like spinach or kale to boost the nutrient profile. If you'd like to reduce fat content slightly, you can use one whole egg plus extra egg whites. That's a compromise that still gives you the benefit of the yolk's nutrients without an overload of calories or fat. Beyond the purely nutritional aspect, there's an emotional lift that comes from knowing you're fueling your body in a more targeted way. Instead of feeling helpless about what might be happening in your brain, you're taking a proactive step. That sense of control can translate into a more positive outlook on your day-to-day life. Even better, if you combine a healthy breakfast with light stretching or a short walk, you're reinforcing healthy habits that support better cognition. Some might worry about medication interactions. If you're on certain statins or have other conditions, like diabetes, it's prudent to discuss any diet changes with your healthcare provider. Let them know you'd like to explore having a few eggs per week and see if that aligns with your overall treatment plan. For most people without extreme dietary restrictions, moderate egg intake is quite manageable. The key is personalization. What works wonders for one person might need tweaking for another. That's where the partnership between you and your medical team becomes valuable. On the emotional side, many seniors I've worked with find that reintroducing foods they once loved rekindles a sense of joy and nostalgia. Perhaps you remember a cherished family breakfast tradition. By allowing yourself to have a favorite food again, in a balanced, health-conscious way, you're not just fueling your body, you're also feeding your spirit. When I decided to cook my first whole egg omelet in years, I recalled my mother's weekend breakfast from decades ago. The smell and taste triggered memories of family gatherings, laughter, and warmth. These small pleasures do matter for overall well-being. Now, I want to ask you, what's one nutrient you suspect you might be overlooking? Is it choline, vitamin D, magnesium, or something else? It might be worth noting and discussing with a nutrition-savvy professional. The point isn't to obsess over every nutrient, but to remain open-minded. Sometimes adding a simple, nutrient-packed item back into your routine can tip the scale in favor of better daily functioning. Let's pause for a moment here to check in. How does this conversation about choline and eggs fit into your own experiences? Have you seen friends or family members benefit from a similar change in diet? If you have questions or doubts, consider writing them down. After all, this is about exploration, not dogma. Let's move on to the final lesson. Many people think they can isolate health into separate boxes, one for brain health, one for heart health, another for mobility, and so on. But our bodies are deeply interconnected. While I first turned to eggs for mental clarity, I soon realized the benefits carried over into other areas of my life, like maintaining muscle tone and even supporting my emotional well-being. Eggs provide a quality source of protein, which is vital for muscle health as we age. And better muscle support can mean better balance, more confidence in movement, and an increased ability to do the things you love, whether it's gardening, dancing, or playing with your grandkids. Consider Mary, age 73, who struggled with muscle weakness following a minor surgery. She was so focused on her rehabilitation exercises that she neglected her protein intake. She believed eggs would spike her cholesterol, so she avoided them entirely. Over time, her recovery stagnated. A physical therapist encouraged her to reevaluate her diet, suggesting protein-rich options to support muscle repair. Slowly, Mary introduced one whole egg per day, paired with lean proteins at lunch and dinner. Within weeks, her therapist noted better progress in her muscle tone and overall stamina. The change wasn't miraculous overnight, but it did set her on a steadier path toward recovery. There's also the hidden link between mental clarity and emotional wellness. When you feel physically stronger and less fatigued, it's easier to maintain a positive outlook. You're less likely to skip social outings or pass on activities you enjoy. And when you do engage socially, you might find your concentration and mood are better. It's like a chain reaction. Fueling your body well can reduce stress and support a clearer mind, which can further motivate you to keep moving. In practical terms, how might you incorporate this lesson into your own life? Consider designating a couple of days each week as your muscle and mind nourishment days. On those days, plan meals that include not just eggs, but also a variety of nutrient-dense proteins like fish, legumes, or lean poultry. Complement them with dark leafy greens, bright-colored vegetables, and whole grains. Simple additions like ground flaxseed, nuts, or avocado can provide healthy fats. This kind of balanced approach ensures you're hitting multiple nutritional targets, vitamins, minerals, and the right macronutrients for your age. Don't forget about hydration. Sometimes we underestimate how much good hydration supports our overall energy and cognitive function. And if you're someone who struggles with limited mobility, even short-seated exercises can be immensely beneficial when coupled with adequate protein intake. The better your muscle support, the more stable you'll feel engaging in daily activities. On an emotional level, paying close attention to nutrition and gentle movement can foster a sense of pride and self-care. Rather than feeling like life is a series of doctor visits and pill bottles, you reclaim some of the autonomy that aging can seem to strip away. Of course, we all have unique challenges. Some of us have arthritis, others have heart conditions or diabetes. But the principle remains: fueling your body with whole, nutrient-dense foods, including eggs, if they suit your health profile, can help you remain as independent and vibrant as possible. One additional note: if eggs are not your preference or if a doctor advises against them for your specific condition, other foods can also supply high-quality protein and vital nutrients. Low-mercury fish, like salmon or sardines, beans, tofu, or low-fat dairy options can all play a similar role. The key takeaway is not to isolate any single food as good or bad by outdated standards. Instead, evaluate it in context. How does it fit into your overall dietary pattern, and how does it make you feel? I'm curious. When was the last time you reviewed your protein intake or thought about how your dietary choices influence not just your body, but also your mind? For some of us, it's been years. So here's a simple engagement prompt. Take one day next week to write down everything you eat and drink. Then reflect on whether you're getting enough protein, a variety of vitamins, and, most importantly, satisfaction from your meals. Use that snapshot to guide small improvements. We've covered the journey of challenging old notions about cholesterol, exploring the role of key nutrients like choline for mental clarity, and recognizing the broader synergy of a balanced diet for overall strength and wellness. Let's pull all these threads together. When I look back at my decision to reintroduce whole eggs at age 72, I can see the ripple effect it had on my health and outlook. I used to associate eggs with worry. Would eating them derail my cholesterol numbers or put me at risk for heart issues? But after careful research, monitoring, and collaboration with my healthcare team, I realized that for me and for many seniors, eggs could be part of a balanced, beneficial diet. Let's recap the key lessons I discovered. First, cholesterol isn't always the straightforward enemy it's made out to be, especially if you're balancing your diet with fiber-rich foods and keeping an eye on your overall lifestyle. Second, nutrients like choline found in the yolk can offer real support for cognitive function, adding another piece to the puzzle of maintaining mental clarity in our later years. And finally, we must remember that our bodies function holistically. The protein and essential fats in eggs can assist with muscle maintenance and contribute to emotional well-being. When you feel stronger physically, you're often in a better place mentally and emotionally as well. This isn't about rushing to the store and stocking up on cartons of eggs for every meal. It's about reevaluating long-held beliefs and embracing new insights with caution and curiosity. Aging doesn't have to mean limiting ourselves out of fear. Instead, it can be a time to fine-tune our habits for the best possible quality of life. If you've been on the fence about eggs or any food you once enjoyed, consider this your invitation to approach the subject with fresh eyes. There's no need to be reckless. Certainly, if you have a specific medical condition, consult with your healthcare provider. But don't let outdated information keep you from exploring potentially beneficial options. As you move forward, imagine feeling a bit sharper in the morning, reading the newspaper with a clear head, or confidently recalling details during conversations with loved ones. Picture yourself taking a short walk, feeling steady on your feet because you've been mindful of your protein intake and overall muscle support. Think of the satisfaction you'll feel knowing you're actively participating in your own well-being. If you're ready to take the next step, here are some suggestions. You could start by adding 1 or 2 egg-based breakfasts each week, paired with fresh vegetables. Maybe schedule a blood test a few weeks or months down the road to see how this change is affecting your cholesterol, if that's a concern. If you're not comfortable with whole eggs, try a mix of whole eggs and egg whites. For those who prefer non-egg sources, look into choline-rich foods or talk to your doctor about a possible supplement. The point is to find a path that fits your individual needs and goals. On another level, I encourage you to share your experiences. Maybe tell a friend or family member what you learned about the evolving science on eggs and mental clarity. Sometimes creating a sense of community around healthy changes can make them easier to stick to. You might even inspire someone else to question a long-standing assumption and discover a new path to feeling better. Finally, if you found this conversation helpful, you might consider leaving a comment or sharing your story. That's one way we can learn from each other's real-world experiences. There's no one-size-fits-all solution, but collectively, we can gather insights that help refine our choices. You've gained a new perspective on a food many seniors have avoided for years. Perhaps that perspective will lead to a practical change in your daily meals, or maybe it'll just encourage you to stay curious about evolving nutrition science. Either way, trust that you have the wisdom to decide what's best for your body. After all, you've spent decades listening to it, caring for it, and learning from it. Now you can take that wisdom and apply it in a way that nurtures your mind, muscles, and spirit alike. And if a single whole egg or two can contribute to that, why not give it a thoughtful try? Thank you for journeying with me through these discoveries. May you continue exploring the foods and practices that bring you greater clarity and strength. Here's to all of us living our best, most vibrant lives at every age.